Okay, we're in a series on the life of David. This morning, I want us to talk about. Well, I'm naming the message this morning. I don't have to take matters into my own hands. Now wait a second. What's funny about that? All right, so this is going to be good for these guys over here, especially this morning. I don't have to take matters into my own hands. And I suppose there may be some debate about that, but we'll take a look at. What we're going to do is we're going to look at a situation, and that will suggest some situations perhaps for many of us. And then we'll take a look at the opportunity that's presented. And then we'll look for the principle or the principles. David has been under an extreme amount of pressure. He's been hounded. He's been dogged. He's been hunted by Saul. We saw that he's done some crazy things. Scared men tend to do unusual things. We took a look at him feigning insanity, actually going to the hometown of Goliath's king and feigning insanity there. And we saw him actually have an opportunity to kill his opponent when Saul went into the cave, and he restrained himself. And then last week we saw that under this great amount of pressure that he really kind of snapped a little bit. Don't know why, but snapped and was ready to give full vent to his anger. Full vent to his anger. And the big idea last week was, anybody remember it? 19 words. One of the longest we've ever had. Anybody remember it? When I give full vent to my anger, I put every good thing I've ever done at risk. When I give full vent to my anger, I put every good thing I've ever done at risk. And we saw how a woman, Abigail, God used a woman, Abigail, as a messenger to mediate between them and quelled his anger. Today, we're going to look at another story, another encounter between David and Saul. And so at 1 Samuel 26, let's take a look first kind of at the situation. The Ziphites, verse 1, went to Saul at Gibeah and said, "Is not David hiding on the hill of Hachilah, which faces Jeshimon?" So Saul went down to the desert of Ziph with his 3,000 chosen men. Now remember, these 3,000 men are the Green Beret. These are the Rangers. This is the Delta Force. This is the army of one, okay? Hey, you know what? We should just take a moment and, without really singling him out for embarrassment, but singling him out for praise, one of our own members this week has joined the Army, the son of Rich Bon Jovi, one of our table leaders, and he's going to be standing right over here when I ask him to stand up. Why don't we congratulate him for his... There you go. You can see you're deeply appreciated for willing to serve our country and protect our freedoms. So these 3,000 Green Berets went out to search for David. Verse 3, Saul made his camp beside the road on the hill of Hakilah facing Jeshimon. But David stayed in the desert. And when he saw that Saul had followed him there, he sent out scouts and learned that Saul had definitely arrived. Then David himself set out, and he went to the place where Saul was camped. He saw where Saul and Abner, son of Ner, the commander of the army, had lain down. Saul was lying inside the camp with the army encamped around him. Okay, so Abner, he's like the head of the Secret Service detail. He's responsible for the security of his commander-in-chief, who happens to be Saul. And so these 3,000 troops camp, and right in the center, and probably with the most elite of the elite, encircled around Saul, Abner and Saul are actually sleeping inside this circle. Verse 6. David then asked Ahimelech the Hittite and Abishai, son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, who will go down into the camp with me to Saul. Now, David is the youngest of 7 sons, and he has 2 sisters. One of the sisters is Zeruiah. This is a woman, not a man. It's Zeruiah is one of David's sisters. And his sister had 3 sons: Joab, Asahel, and Abishai. So Abishai is David's nephew. Abishai is David's nephew. In the weeks ahead, we will see that Joab, Asahel, and Abishai, these 3 men, are among the most elite fighting soldiers in David's command. In fact, Joab will be the commander of the army, and Abishai will be the commander of the 3. There's the 3, there's the 30, all these different things. We'll look into that later. And so David asks, which of you 2 men will go with me? And Abishai says, I will go with you. Verse 7. So David and Abishai, these 2 guys, went to the army by night, and there was Saul lying asleep inside the camp with his spear stuck in the ground near his head. Abner and the soldiers were lying around him. Abishai said to David, today God has delivered your enemy into your hands. And with that, all the other soldiers woke up and destroyed them. No, he must have whispered that, don't you think? Abishai said to David, softly, today God has delivered your enemy into your hands. What a moment this must have been. Think about the situations that you find yourself in. It might be, it could be, that you have wanted to adopt a child for years. Maybe you haven't been able to have kids. And for years and years and years and years, you've been wanting to have a child. It might be that you have been passed over for a promotion that you really wanted, you believed you deserved it, and years and years have gone by, and you're feeling oppressed. You're feeling persecuted because you didn't get the promotion that you thought you deserved. Or maybe somebody left your company, and they took your client list with them. And now they've been raiding your clients. And your business has fallen on hard times because they stole your clients, Clarence. And you don't even know if you're going to be able to make payroll this month because this person has basically raided your client list. Or maybe it's something like what I went through. January 1, 1987, I'm looking back at the Tax Reform Act of 1986, and I'm looking at, let's just say that one day I had $200 in properties and $150 in mortgages. Okay? One day I had $200 in properties and $150 in mortgages. 6 months later, approximately, on January 1, 1987, they told me that I had $100 in properties. The $200 worth of properties had depreciated by 50% down to $100. But guess what? I still had $150 in mortgages. And so now I'm facing financial disaster and chaos. Bankruptcy is staring me in the face. And there's certainly no disgrace in going bankrupt if you've done everything you can to avoid going bankrupt. I really felt God was calling me to do everything humanly possible to resolve these problems with the creditors. And so, you know, I'm now 1 year, 2 years into this. A lot of my peers, they just went ahead and declared bankruptcy. So now I'm 3 years down the road, 3 years into this, and all my buddies, all the guys, my peers, they're all rebuilding their lives. They're all getting on with the next chapter of their lives, and I'm still going down. And I'm still going down. 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, I'm still going down. That's my situation. You have your situation. You have your situation. David has his situation. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. And now comes your moment of opportunity. Your moment of opportunity. You wanted to own a home for a long, long, long time. You finally were able to put together the down payment. And now they tell you that all you have to do is answer yes to this question on the loan application, and the money's yours. The opportunity has come. All you have to do is take advantage of it. Finally, you found an attorney that can help you get the child. All you have to do is answer no on the application, even though it's really yes. And the child is yours. The guy who has been blocking your promotion all of these years, finally, you knew it would happen. Finally, you have a memo. You have a memo that he wrote that you know you can put him down. You can get rid of him once and for all. Your moment of opportunity has come. Now, what do you do? What do you do? Now you have the opportunity to get your vengeance, to get what you wanted, to get where you wanted to go. Let's look at two reads, one by Abishai and one by David, to this opportunity. Today, God has delivered your enemy into your hands. We have a serious problem going on over at this table. I don't know what it is yet. Well, yeah, that too. I don't know what it is yet, but I do know this. This Bible study today is probably not going to help at all. Abishai continues, now let me pin him to the ground with one thrust of my spear, and I won't have to strike twice. This guy is a warrior. This guy is a fighter. And he also is a guy who wants to shoot first and ask questions later. And think about how many times we mistake opportunity for permission. he had the opportunity, and depending on the worldview that you're working out of, a lot of times you just strike. You just act. You just check off the yes in the box, or you just check off the no. You just do the expedient thing in order to take advantage of the opportunity. There's another way. The second read on this situation we see from David. But David whispered to Abishai, "Don't destroy him. Who can lay a hand on the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? As surely as the Lord lives," he said, "the Lord himself will strike him, or his time will come and he will die, or he will go into battle and perish. But the Lord forbid that I should lay a hand on the Lord's anointed. Now get the spear and the water jug, get the spear and the water head that are near his head, and let's go." And so David took the spear being the symbol of death, and the water jug being the symbol of life, taking Saul's symbols of both death and life, and they left. No one saw or knew about it, nor did anyone wake up. They were all sleeping. And don't miss this, because the Lord had put them into a deep sleep. In other words, the sense is that the sovereignty of God has been at work here. The sense is that they wouldn't have had to whisper. They did, because that was a smart thing to do. But they could have walked boldly into that camp, because God was in the process of providing a way for David to be delivered. Now, your opportunity. There are two ways you can read it. You can go ahead and do the expedient thing, which seems like it'll work, yes? Or maybe you've already done the expedient thing. And the problem with doing the expedient thing is that it does work. It will work. If David had gone ahead and killed Saul, he would have become the king. But he also would have blocked, by doing the unjust thing, by finding justice, by finding the way to that which is his eventual destiny anyway, through an injustice, he would have robbed himself of the rewards that God had for him. Look with me. We're going to skip all the way ahead to verse 23, and I'm going to tell you what happens in between. David now goes over to the other side of the hill, and he calls down to Abner, the commander of David's army, and he taunts him. He said, "Okay, aren't you supposed to be the guy who's guarding the king? Aren't you the head of the Secret Service detail? You blew it, buddy. You blew it. You deserve to die." And then he talks to Saul, and he has an exchange with Saul. And Saul recognizes that this is David. And Saul repents. He says, "I've sinned. I've done the wrong thing. I'll stop pursuing you." Invites him to come back home, which I'm sure David was real excited about the invitation. But instead, in verse 22, he says, "Here's the king's spear," David said. "Let one of your young men come over and get it. The Lord rewards every man for his righteousness and faithfulness." The Lord rewards every man for his righteousness and faithfulness. Well, what is this passage talking about? It's really talking about a quick fix. It's really talking about an easy way out. And today you're going to have this week, you're going to have situations that develop into opportunities for quick fixes and easy ways out. You're going to have a chance on an application to check yes when you should check no, or check no when you should check yes. Somebody in this audience today, in this group of men today, within the next 24 to 72 hours, you're going to be filling out an application. And you're going to have a chance to check no when you should check yes, or check yes when you should check no. Right? And if you check no when you should check no, or you check yes when you should check yes, you are going to suffer. You are going to suffer. You are going to prolong your misery. You're going to prolong the feeling of oppression. You are going to prolong your own persecution by holding to your integrity. And that's why you will be tempted to not check no when you should check no. And that's why you'll be tempted to not check yes when you should check yes. Because doing the right thing always costs more than doing the wrong thing. And that's the big idea this morning. Doing the right thing always costs more than doing the wrong thing. It will always cost you more to hold on to your integrity. It will always cost you more to do the right thing than to do the wrong thing. That's the principle. That's the principle of the gospel. It will always cost you more to cling to your integrity than it will to do the expedient thing. When I had my little problem, my 7-year problem, for 7 years, I got up every morning and I did not know if that would be the day that I would have to declare bankruptcy or not. It was that touch and go for 7 years. 7 years. 7 years. And by God's grace, I did not have to declare bankruptcy. I should have. I deserved it. I was so foolish with the way I'd handled my finances. I deserved it. And I don't think there would have been any disgrace if I had, because I had tried everything I could not to. But I didn't have to. And so this text that we're looking at this morning is a text that I clinged to for those 7 years. It says, as surely as the Lord lives, verse 10, as surely as the Lord lives. The Lord himself will deliver me, or this problem will pass away of old age, or the Lord will strike him. And so this is what I wrote on October 6, 1993. 7 years, over 7 years after the Tax Reform Act was passed. I won't read all of it, but I'll read the end. Like David in 1 Samuel 26:10, I have trusted in the Lord, not knowing how he would deliver me, but that he would deliver me. So the idea is just to trust God enough that you know that he will deliver you, you just don't know how. You do. You can know that. You can know that God's going to deliver you. You just may not know how. Now, a couple weeks ago, I talked about how when we're under extreme pressure, God will always provide a way out. However, somebody wrote me an email, one of the men that watches on the webcast wrote me an email, said that doesn't square with his theology, and he's correct. Because you just can't say everything every time, but What about the martyrs? What about Hebrews 11? What about the people who didn't get what they had hoped for in this life? Well, actually, they did get a way out. And God did take care of them. You know, life is just an inch. Life is just an inch. Heinrich von Loon, some of you have heard me mention this illustration before, wrote a novel called The Land of Svithjod, in which he described eternity. He said, imagine a block of granite, big, giant block of granite, 100 feet by 100 feet by 100 feet tall. Big, giant block of granite, 100 feet square, cube. Now, imagine that once every 1,000 years, a little bird comes along, a little sparrow, and sharpens its beak on this big block of granite. However long it would take for that little bird to wear that big block of granite down to powdery dust, that is the first blink of eternity's eye. Life is an inch. Life is an inch. So even if you don't get out of here alive, which is pretty certain, by the way, God will deliver you. God will take care of you. We don't know how. Trusting in the Lord, not knowing how He would deliver me, but that He would deliver me. So even if you have to go bankrupt, even if you don't get the house, even if you don't ever get the promotion, even if you don't ever get the child, guess what? He's taking care of you. He is delivering you. What's the big idea? Who wrote it down? Doing the right thing will always cost more than doing the wrong thing. And yet, we can have utter and complete confidence that God will deliver us. He will always deliver us in the way that He deems best. It's when we entrust our future to the sovereignty of a good, holy, righteous God. Look at verse 23 one more time. The Lord rewards most men for their righteousness and faithfulness. No, the Lord rewards every man who clings to his principles, his integrity. A man who thirsts after righteousness and is faithful to his God. So what's your deal this morning? What is your situation? What is the situation that you find yourself in, the long-term situation? It may be some of you, and this would be the single biggest category to deal with, some of us here today. Some of us here today just don't know how we can stay with that woman for one more hour. She makes you feel oppressed. Cling to your principle. God will take care of you. Whether in this life or the next, who knows? But if you will cling to your principle, God will provide a way out. Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, Lord, I will confess I really have no idea what you want to teach us this morning, these other men this morning, but I know what you want to teach me. And I pray that whatever the message is for each of these men, that not only would we hear and understand, but that you would use your word to transform our worldview, that you would use your word to transform the way that we are thinking about the situation in which we find ourselves, that you would give us a new way of responding to the opportunities that present themselves to do that which is right or that which is wrong. And I pray this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.